Hello, everyone. Hello, my friends. Welcome. We're just watching the numbers roll up as people start to sign in. Hi, Kyle.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm just great. I'm so glad you're here with us today. We've got a few more people signing in right now, so we'll just give it a couple of seconds before we get going. To those of you who joined us last week for it was actually our second happy hour that we did with Calgary. It was super fun. It was about a foodie walking tour in Calgary, and we got such great feedback on that that particular event. So thanks for that. The numbers are rolling in. I'm currently on Vancouver Island, as most of you know, and the weather's great here. It is a bit smoky. Is it smoky where you are, Kyle?
It's a little bit, yeah. So I'm up in Prince George, and just over the last couple of days, yeah, it's kind of not nearly as bad as down the island, and as I'm sure down the south, but it's coming, yeah.
It's getting better on the island, actually. As of today, there was some sunshine. It was peeking through, so it's getting much better here. But yeah, it's great to be here. I know we had one last weekend. We have a really special happy hour coming up in 2 weeks that I'll talk about in a little bit. But we're going to get started, and in a second, I'm going to introduce you to my good friend Kyle. But let's just start with a little bit about Anderson Vacations, because I did notice there were some newcomers who signed up. We do have our steadfast agents who come on every 2 weeks, and I'm super grateful to have you. Thank you so much. Hopefully you walk away a little bit inspired. I always walk away inspired, and it's super exciting today because we're going to talk about Northern British Columbia, and I am now a BC resident. But just to give you a little bit of background for our newcomers, Anderson Vacations is a Canadian company. We're Calgary based. When you shop with Anderson Vacations, you're shopping local. And of course, there's never been a more important time than right now to support your local businesses where you live and all around Canada. So I'm actually going to have, Kyle has control today because I had control last week and I ran into problems. So Kyle's going to jump to the next slide for me if you don't mind. Thanks. Okay, so most of you know me. I am Darcie Guarderas, and I'm the Director of Business Development for Anderson Vacations. And I'm the luckiest person in the entire world because I love Canada so much, and I've been so blessed to travel from coast to coast to coast and see a lot of it. And about 3 weeks ago, not even, I was actually on an airplane flying up to the Yukon. And so for those of you who've got people calling, clients asking about flying, because I think that's the number one piece of the puzzle that needs to fit together before people get consumer confidence. The flights were full. I wore my mask. I felt completely safe. And I'm actually getting on another plane on Tuesday coming up. So I'm feeling really confident about it. We just need to get our clients, your clients, feeling really confident about flying. And that will definitely happen, hopefully very soon. Maybe we can go to the next slide. Okay, this is my favorite slide. Okay, so this is what I have today. I'm so excited about this. Kyle, you're amazing. Kyle sent this to me. Kyle's got one too. So mine is called Pie Hard, and it's flavors of strawberry and rhubarb, which I can definitely do because it doesn't have raspberries, which I'm not a fan of raspberries, but I'm super excited because Kyle sent these to me in the mail. If you know someone who works for Canada Post, don't report it because apparently it's illegal to mail beer.
Yeah. Is that true? Lesson learned. Lesson learned.
Oh my goodness. Ooh, it's very fruity. It's delicious. So that reminds me that we do have a chat. I always forget the housekeeping at the beginning. We do have a chat box. Let me know if you're joining us for a drink today, what you're drinking. Give us some feedback if you like what we're doing. If you want us to do another happy hour and something else, please let us know. But this beer is actually from Smithers Brewing Company in Smithers, of course. And it's like this timber-framed brewery from what I understand. And they have 10 taps and they have 4 main beers and then 4 seasonal that they rotate. So I believe, is this one of the seasonals?
Yeah, so that's a summer seasonal, yeah.
Okay, well, it's really delicious. And I have to drive after this, so I can only take a few sips because I have to pick up someone at the ferry terminal. But this is a Pie Hard Blonde, strawberry and rhubarb. No, strawberries and rhubarb. Perfect. So before we get started, we're going to talk a little bit about Northern BC. What's really important now is we're looking for wide open spaces, right? Isn't that right? Clients are looking for wide open spaces. They don't want to be tucked in somewhere tight. So that's what's the beauty of Northern BC, is that it really truly is about nature and wildlife and wide open spaces. So what I want you to do today is picture yourselves in northern BC as Kyle goes through all this. And before I introduce him, I want to tell you about the prizes. See, again, I forget the housekeeping stuff. We have prizes. Of course we have prizes. So you've got to pay attention to things that Kyle says. He's going to try and drop a few hints. And so we are giving away a beer pack, a seasonal pack, right, of this. So a beer, so it goes with the happy hour, of course. And we also have this awesome book. It's called Skeena. Let me think about what it's called. It's called the Skeena.
Voice of the Skeena.
Voice of the Skeena.
Stories of the Skeena.
Right. Yeah. And the Skeena is the second longest river in BC. And this book tells a story of the Indigenous peoples that lived along the river. So it's a beautiful book. And it's by Roy Henry Vickers. And he's a BC guy. And I'm going to quickly tell you a story before I pass this off. So Roy Henry Vickers, I've always been a fan. He's this incredible artist. And I actually have a beautiful painting of his that one of my kids has right now. But about 20 years ago, when I lived in Winnipeg and I was single, I met a boy who lived in Vancouver, and we started to sort of see each other. So my birthday was coming up, and he knew I was coming out to Vancouver, so he knew how much I loved Roy Henry Vickers. So he actually got on a ferry from Vancouver. He went all the way across to the island, rented a car, drove across the island to Tofino, where Roy Henry Vickers' gallery is, bought me this incredible painting, came all the way back. It took 14 hours in one day to get me this incredible picture for my birthday. And I showed up the next day. I flew into Vancouver, and he gave me this incredible picture. And we walked down to Granville Island. Of course, that's what you do when you're Vancouver. And Roy Henry Vickers had a display of all of his art, and that exact picture was sitting in Granville Island. So his 14-hour day was completely not necessary, but such a sweet, kind, wonderful thing to do, and I'll never forget it. And that's how I have this wonderful connection to Roy Henry Vickers. And Kyle's going to tell you a bit more about that. So Kyle, if you go to the next slide for me, and then you can take over. But I'd like to introduce my friend Kyle Flanagan. He's with Northern BC Tourism Association, and he is really passionate about Northern BC. And we're just so happy to have you, Kyle. So thanks for joining us. The floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Darcie. Yeah, I'm super excited, and we've worked with Anderson Vacation for many years, and they're really experts on the region and passionate about all areas of Canada. And we had Jai up last year and got to explore the route we're talking about today, and hope to have you, Darcie, up soon. So, but yeah, super excited to share my backyard with you today. Smithers Brewing. The reason why we chose Smithers Brewing was actually the owner of the brewery opened it a couple years ago, and he actually had my job before. So he was the old travel trade and PR guy for Northern BC Tourism, and now he runs Smithers Brewing, and he partners with Roy Henry Vickers, who lives up in Northern BC, to do seasonal cans. So some of the cans are designed by Roy Henry Vickers, and yeah, so a kind of classic northern story where everyone knows everyone. But yeah, so super excited to share Northern BC today. So as you probably know, it's a lot of territory, and we won't be able to cover all of it, else we'd be here for 6 hours. But we're going to focus on the Highway 16 route today in the Skeena. There are other areas that are the popular ones. So the Alaska Highway, obviously, for a lot of the U.S. Guests go up from Dawson Creek to Fort Nelson, up to Alaska. And one of the cool areas I'll just quickly touch on, there's an area called the MK, and it's a protected area the size of Ireland, just north of Fort Nelson, and it's considered the Galapagos of the north, or the Serengeti of the north, because of the wildlife and the untouched biodiversity of the area. So any travelers going through the area will get to experience an area that has very little people and lots of wildlife, and it's right off the highway. So just a quick note about that one. And then a lot of other people also come down the circle route, so they'll come back down Stewart after going to Alaska and make that route back, and then down to Port Hardy through the ferry. So as you can see by the map, it's over 60% of the province, but only 5% of the population. So as Darcie noted earlier, there's a lot of open spaces, a lot of wildlife, and a lot of area that's been unexplored, and you can kind of make your own adventure. So the first video that I'm going to show is just kind of to give you an idea of the area. Jai was on this trip with Rob, not this exact trip, but he took a trip with him last year. So he got to experience firsthand what it's like to be on a riverboat in northern BC. So we'll just quickly play this video.
I don't know. I mean, I get excited. I get maybe even anxious sometimes too, going into these places. Yeah, just kind of a bit of an eerie feeling, knowing that there should be people in some of these places, but there's not. Yeah, there's nobody there. I don't know. It just kind of makes me wonder why. There's a lot of towns, little towns here, from the early 1900s, late 1800s, scattered around here that a lot of people don't even know exist. It's vast. You will see nobody out here. There's hundreds of rivers. You have ocean, inlets. We have lots of access points to explore these places. I sometimes think, I got to be one of the first people that's actually ever explored this place. I wonder when the last person was that actually hiked up to this thing. I just can't believe it that I'm here. It does take you back in time. Think about what it would have been like to be there. And really, it makes you wonder. You just never know what to expect, I guess.
So Rob, so he's a really cool guy, and he's also a professor at the university in Prince George. So he kind of does those tours on the side, and really passionate about obviously getting out and showing off some of the areas that would be tougher to get to by walking or other normal ways of transportation. I feel like such a rookie. I froze my beer because I was trying to make it as cold as possible, and now it's overflowing everywhere. So I had to readjust during the video, but so we're going to go over Highway 16, which is one of the more popular routes for first-time people up into northern BC. Kind of the demographic would be first trip would maybe to be Vancouver, and then their second time in BC, they'll want to get up to the northern parts and explore the wilderness and the wild and the wildlife. So if anyone's been to Prince George before, maybe 10 years ago, it would have been this blue-collar industry forestry town, and over the last kind of 10 years, it's transformed with the university. Lots of great restaurants, lots of young families moving here, so it's kind of adjusted the culture. It's got great food, great breweries, and kind of a young, fun kind of demographic. So lots of things to do. So when taking the Nisga'a train, this is one of the stopovers. So you can start the train in Jasper and stop over in Prince George, or start the train in Prince George, whatever you like. So some of the cool things about Prince George is getting out into the wilderness, and that'll be a common theme about northern BC because there is so much wilderness out in the back door. There's over 100 lakes within an hour of Prince George, so a lot of the locals will get out after work to either do paddleboarding, kayaking, water skiing, and there's lots of tour operators that will take guests out, whether it be fishing for the first time or paddleboarding for the first time. The other photo too is it's the ancient forest, so it's one of the only inland rainforests in the world, and it's just 45 minutes away from Prince George. There's trees that are over 2,000 years old, which blows my mind to even think that there will be something living that's over 2,000 years old. But you can walk through and really get a feeling for what it would have been just to be amongst those trees. They just got a new grant this year where they'll be developing. It's $8.5 million, and they'll be developing just an Indigenous aspect to it with a sweat lodge and then some cultural experiences just to kind of show how the area was used by the local Lheidli T'enneh, which are the Indigenous people of the Prince George area. So that should be done next year. So kind of as that develops, I'll keep Darcie posted, and she can, any questions too, you can refer to her. And then there's also just lots of museums and stuff in the area, railroad museums, that sort of stuff. But the main kind of thing about Prince George is it could be quick to drive through, but there's lots of cool areas that you can get out just within an hour's drive of town. So as we make our way along the Nisga'a, the next big town, I guess you could say the population of 10,000 people is Smithers, BC. So this Smithers is a ski town. There's a ski hill right in town, Hudson Bay Mountain. So lots of skiers, and in the summertime, it's rolled around for fishing. So steelhead salmon fishing is the biggest tourist attraction in Smithers. But but even being like, I guess most northern communities, it's a lot of outdoor activities. So Alpine Lakes Air offers these float plane tours where you can go to backcountry lodges and stay for the night, or you can do the stand-up paddle boarding. The cool thing about Smithers actually is there's a bylaw that says any building that's built downtown has to have an Alpine theme. So there's a picture of the downtown there. So it looks like an Alpine village. They have their mascot is a big, it's called the Alpenhorn, which is a Swiss guy with a big horn that's about 10 feet tall. So you can't miss it as you go through town. There's a local supply rental that any kind of outdoor activity that you'd want to do, you can rent all the supplies to do it. And that's usually a barrier for people that want to get into the backcountry or just go hike a little bit. They don't have all the gear, so they offer all that in town. So the wintertime obviously is a big tourism draw for Smithers. They have it's called Hank and Evelyn. It's an area, it's a ski hill that doesn't have any lifts. So it was the first of its kind where you tour up the mountain and then ski down. And how it originally started was the loggers that were out of work for the major industry, they wanted to give them something to do to keep them employed. So they developed this plan to build a ski resort without a lift. So people now tour up the hill and can ski down. There's 8 cut runs. And it's an amazing spot, especially for people, like you said, just trying to get into the backcountry. Yeah, so super cool. Indigenous tourism is such a big part of Northern BC's history. Even now, there's lots of still standing totem poles from years and years ago. The communities are vibrant, especially along the Skeena. Kasan, which is the photo on the right, is a rebuilt village. So you can go through tours of the village and really get an understanding on how they lived and how they interacted with each other. So the Kasan is the Gitxsan people. And it's a really cool and kind of grounding experience to go through each of the cabins and kind of realize how they interacted with the other cultures and the other nations, and just the way of life and seeing the artifacts. So it's definitely worth a stop along the route. And then the views are amazing, and the people are amazing to talk to, and they're really open to share their stories and experiences. So this next video is with Monty. So he runs a rafting company along the Kispiox and Skeena River. Also super passionate about the north, and I'll just play it from here.
I've lost count how many times I've watched that sun come up. It never gets old. You never get tired of seeing it. All of us all connect on the river. It's life. The Skeena River and the Kispiox River are the veins of us. It's because it's in our blood. And that's why we protect it. I think majority of the people that come up here are looking for that. For someone to see the river in our eyes. It will give them a better understanding of who we are. Seeing their faces change, it's like you're meant to be there. I believe in my heart the river is capable of changing people. I know as long as my heart's beating, I'm going to be wanting to be there.
So just down the road is the Nisga'a Memorial Park. So that's part of the Nisga'a Nation. So it's the first modern treaty of its kind. So they signed a modern treaty 20 years ago, and they developed this amazing tourism product in the last few years. So 350 years ago, there was the most recent volcano in Canada. So you're in the Great Bear Rainforest at the start of the drive, and then around the next corner, you're amongst a lava field. So it's a real diverse area. There's an auto tour which has 24 stops, which kind of go through. You can go up to the crater, you can explore. There's a sunken forests and all this little areas along the route. They have a hot springs which is off the side of the road, which are free, and there's never anyone in them. So that's a really cool spot. The museum is also an amazing brand new museum, and it really gives a good understanding of the Indigenous heritage, because if you stop in Kisan, you learn about the Gitxsan people, and only an hour away you can learn about the Nisga'a people, which are a completely different way of life. The way they interacted as being coastal peoples compared to inland, the way they traded, and so it really gives you an understanding that all the Indigenous communities are different in the way that they and they're not all the same. So for me, the first time I did it was a really awesome experience, and a really different, like, perspective changing experience for me. So it's definitely a must stop. There's guided tours as well to get the cultural tour if you wanted the whole guided tour. So the northwest is the terrace kitimat region. So this is part of the Great Bear Rainforest. It's wet. As you drive through or train through or however where you're getting through this, you come down to the mountains and you can start to smell the ocean. So that's for anyone along the coast. It's home for them. So big mountains. You're in the coastal mountains, so a lot of great scenery. The kind of main things to do would obviously be the coyote bear, which is the white-black bear. I know it's like a double negative, but it's got a recessive gene. There's only a few in the world, and they can be found in the Great Bear Rainforest, so at a kitimat or terrace. In terrace, the First Nation peoples, Indigenous peoples call them a spirit bear. So there's different names for them. Some places call them, so the spirit bear is what we call them up north. There's also great access to the backcountry. There's hikes, so Bootsy Rapids is with the waterfall, and that's a 15-minute hike off the highway. The Skeena Kispiox is the bottom right one, which you would have saw with Rob Bryce's riverboat tour. And then the road between Kitimat and Prince Rupert is an amazing drive. And just to drive it and stop along the way, there's little hikes that you can pull out. It resembles from the Vancouver to Whistler route, if anyone's done that before, but without any traffic. Every time I've drove, it's been one or two cars. So it's a cool spot. You can stop along the road, hike. There's lots of marked trails. So it's an amazing spot. Prince Rupert is the coastal community, and probably the most popular kind of tourism specific town in our region. They have the cruise ships that go to Alaska will stop in Prince Rupert, and then also the BC ferries, and then access to Haida Gwaii. So Prince Rupert actually is a really cool story, and a lot of Prince Rupertites hold on to this deeply, is that when they originally building the railroad across Canada, Prince Rupert was supposed to be the port town where the railroad ended. And so the gentleman that held the plans to build the port and all the economic benefits that come from having a port, and the railroad went back to England to get all the funding, and actually passed away in the Titanic. So the next person that came over thought Vancouver would be a better choice for the port. So Prince Rupert's whole claim to fame is that they were almost Vancouver. They almost could have been Vancouver, but they still are a port town, and it's almost better that they didn't become Vancouver, because it is such a quirky little town. 5,000 people live there. It can't really grow anymore because it's all surrounded by mountains and all that sort of stuff. And this particular picture is part of their shopping district, and it's very quaint, and it's all cow themed, because in the early 40s there was a Swiss farmer who dumped all of his cows into the bay, and they all swam to shore. I didn't know cows can swim, but they can. And then the cows lived in the area for many years to come, and then they've adapted the name of the area to Cow Bay. So it's a funky, lots of little shops, coffee and seafood, obviously being on the coast, but it's worth a good half day walking around and just exploring. Prince Rupert, obviously being a coastal community, there's lots of whale watching, hiking, kayaking rentals, a lot of things just to get out and explore the area. The khutzeymateen is the most popular trip of the area. It's a really cool story behind the khutzeymateen. The spelling, I could probably try and spell it 100 times and would never spell it right, but it's the first area to ban grizzly bear hunting in BC. So for years and years, grizzly bear hunting was allowed in BC, and this was the first area 20 years ago to, I guess over 20 years ago now, to completely ban grizzly bear hunting. And so one of the park rangers that was originally pushing to ban the grizzly bear hunting opened a lodge, it's called the Coutts Lodge, in the sanctuary. And so he's super passionate about the area. And now grizzly bear hunting is banned across BC because of this area. And you can go in, there's Prince Rupert Adventure Tours or Coutts Lodge that do day tours into the sanctuary. And because the bears haven't been hunted for 2 generations, they're not afraid of humans. And there's only 3 operators that are allowed to go into the khutzeymateen. You can't be a public boat and go into it. So they're very respectful of the animals. And they know all the gossip about the bears. So the history, who's with who, all of the mating and who's had what babies which. So it's quite the sitcom as you go in, and you can get right up close to the bears and see just the powerfulness and the size and just the beauty of the bears. And so last time when we went in, actually Jai was on the trip as well, we saw 14 grizzly bears, and they're just hanging out, eating. They eat the sledge, which is along the ocean, and they just hang out. So yeah, a really cool experience, and a really cool area to that shows how tourism can push an agenda, whether it be banning of grizzly bear hunting, and show the benefits of tourism to some people that wouldn't normally agree. So Haida Gwaii, we're not going to talk up too much about Haida Gwaii today, because we could do our own just on the island alone. But I did want to quickly touch on it. It is access point from Prince Rupert. There is a ferry that goes from Prince Rupert to Haida Gwaii. It is an amazing spot. It's home to UNESCO World Heritage Site Guaihanis, which is an ancient village that is still, you can still see the poles are still standing, and some of the village site, you can still see the housing and that sort of thing. So there's lots of great tours, and Anderson Vacation does lots of amazing tours out on Haida Gwaii. So we'll maybe save that one for another day, but I just wanted to mention that it is access point from Prince Rupert. So this would be the popular route, whether to go by ferry, then the inside passage down to Port Hardy if you're kind of expanding. If someone had maybe 14 days or a week to get around BC and they wanted a full experience of a BC trip, this would be the example. They would get on the Nisga'a train in Jasper or Prince George, and then go to Prince Rupert, and then take the inside passage down Port Hardy. So the BC ferries is more like a cruise ship, because there's berths on the ferry. It goes all along the Great Bear Rainforest, and it really just shows how little population lives on the coast of BC and how much nature there is all along the coast. So it's a really cool ferry. You can see at the front there's viewing areas, and there's lots of wildlife along the way. And it's more, instead of just a transportation, it's more of an experience, and a really cool one. So the Skeena Rail it's actually the last railroad in Canada where you can hail down the train at any time. So you'll often see locals on the side of the track hailing down the train. So on the media side of things, in the past, we've done hop on, hop off mountain bike trips. So even though your itinerary says that you're stopping in Prince Rupert or stopping in Prince George, you can stop at any of the stops along the way, or get on at any of the stops along the way, to kind of build your own itinerary. The drivers along the train, or the conductors, are all really quirky and personable, and you'll meet them as you get on the train. A lot of them, it's kind of a mix between retired train guys that just love driving a train, or the young train conductors who want to ski and mountain bike in the summertime and kind of do that on the side. So it's always quirky, and it's a really beautiful scenery to go along the train. But it's called the Skeena because it goes along the Skeena River, and it's really cool. The last train that you can hail along the side of the train. So super cool. So every week there's a recipe. So this one I picked from the Haida House. So Haida House is on Haida Gwaii, but it's a really cool product. And they built this last year. They built traditional longhouses where you can stay at. So those will be open in 2021. But they also have a really great restaurant. And I know Darcie's really passionate about seafood, so maybe I'll let her talk about seafood.
I was super excited when I saw this recipe because, first of all, it's from Haida Gwaii, and we do have amazing product to Haida Gwaii. Right now, of course, we're respecting the fact that the Haida people don't want tourists in there because they're a little bit of a vulnerable community without having the right, lots of facilities, medical facilities, if something does go wrong. So we're respecting that, but hopefully by next year we will be back into Haida Gwaii. And the fact that it's from Haida Gwaii and that it's crab, oh my gosh! So I clearly haven't made this one yet, but I'm going to. Super excited about that. We're going to send this recipe out to everyone with the recording afterwards, so you don't have to write it down. If you want to take a picture, that's fine. But I did have a couple of comments here. I had Yvette say that actually her husband used to live in Fort Fraser, and he said that they used to hail the train down from their backyard, like right from their property. So that's super cool because I wasn't aware of that at all. That's really
yeah, it's pretty cool. So you get to meet a lot of interesting folks and lots of stories to be told. So.
Yeah, that was awesome. Beautiful. I loved all the open spaces. The videos are fantastic. I know sometimes there's a bit of lag on the videos, but they're still so inspiring to see, the beautiful, beautiful river and the mountains and things, and, traditional BC, the way, how you feel when you're looking at all these images. Do you mind jumping to the next slide for me, please, Kyle? Okay, so I'm going to leave this up for a minute while I chat a bit, because here's the questions. And if you can get them to me by the end of day tomorrow, would be awesome. Kyle did mention some of these things, but if you get stuck and you need a nudge, you can always email me. I'm usually pretty good at helping people out. But you can win that this beer, or you can win the lovely book. It's great to have you guys join us. Take a look at these, answer the questions if you like, and email the answers to me, and we will pick those winners. All of the products that you've seen today and all the different destinations, they're great for a self-drive itinerary where people who are local can, of course, drive up. Or if they're coming from other provinces and come into BC, we can arrange for them to pick up a car rental and then do the itinerary. Some of it's not a paid itinerary, clearly, but we can give them ideas of what they should do. And hopefully you've been inspired by what Kyle talked about today as a sort of a driving route going through these really quaint little towns that have lots of personality. I love the fact that, the Cow Bay was named after the cows coming in and things like that. All these little historical things that you learn as you go along the way. So that's awesome. I'm going to leave this for one quick second. I want to see my notes here if there's anything else I want to share with you. Oh, quickly, I wanted to talk to you about what's happening in 2 weeks. So 2 weeks from now, we're doing a very special happy hour. We've already done Vancouver Island in the past, but we got such amazing feedback. And to be honest with you, right now, the biggest selling product that we have right now in Canada to Canadians is BC. So BC's pretty much opened up to most of the provinces. The Yukon is only open up to BC in the Northwest Territories. So we are selling quite a bit of Yukon to BC residents, but it seems like people from Manitoba want to come here, and we're doing long stay programs on Vancouver Island this year because all those people who would normally go down to hot destinations, maybe Arizona or Florida, maybe don't want to stay in Manitoba or Saskatchewan or Ontario, and they want to come this direction. So we have long stay programs in on Vancouver Island, in Victoria, in Souk, and also in Parksville, which most people don't think of. So because we started talking about BC so much, we decided to do another happy hour in 2 weeks that is also BC focused, but we're going to come back to the island, and it's called Island Life because this is where I live and I am so passionate about it, and I'm going to take you guys on a few little excursions and do little videos. So I am going to take you clam digging with me, and we're going to do a few visits to some of my favorite wineries and a couple of other little spots. So super excited about that. Please tune in 2 weeks from now for that. The final part of the happy hour, we're going to see if we can pull it off, where I might even have you in my kitchen doing some cooking. So we'll see about that. That should be fun. If you don't mind jumping to the next slide, please, Kyle, that'd be great. Don't forget, most of you have already signed up. Clearly, if you're getting these invitations, share the invitation with other agents in your organization, please. And if for some reason you're not getting the invitations, if you're getting them and they suddenly stop, let's figure out why, because I have had someone say they were getting all the invitations and then they stopped and then something went wrong. But share it with your colleagues. Please invite them to come along with us on this ride and have them sign up on the website at andersonvacations.ca to access these great resources. And if you jump to the next slide, Kyle, thanks. We've got, we can do these amazing personalized flyers. So say you want to offer Northern BC, or you want to offer a long stay program in BC, and you want to get that to your clients so they know that you can offer it, because the biggest the biggest problem is that sometimes clients don't realize that you guys can sell Canada. So it's up to you to let them know, and we can work together to create these beautiful flat sheets. They're customized with your email, your contact details and logo, and you can send it off to your clients with a little reminder. Sometimes clients will say, well, I didn't want to bother you because it's just Canada. But right now, it's important that they support you, so you got to ask them for their support. So please let us know if we can help you with that. Now I'm just going to go to the question and answer bar here and see if I have any other questions that I need to address. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. Okay, there's a question from Hannah. Hey Kyle, question about Highway 16. Is the entire highway paved?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's all paved. It's not 2 lane, or sorry, not multi-lane. So it is just one way, one going either way. But there is passing lanes.
Sections that are notably steep.
Nope. It's definitely an RV friendly route. So yeah.
Okay, she said she just did Highway 20 from Williams Lake to Bella Coola, and she's wondering if it compares, if it has 16 compares. Are you familiar?
Yeah, so highway that one is steep and windy. Highway 16 is a lot more straight and not as steep, I guess.
Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
It's an easy drive.
That's great, and that's excellent. She said thank you. Some nice comments. Margie said it's very inspiring. That's great. What's the weather there like there in January, February for these tours for this time of year? If they did a self drive or if they went up there?
So it depends. So when you're inland, Smithers, and then even just the northwest, it's winter, so it's cold and snowy. But Prince Rupert is a coastal temperate town, so it doesn't change too much. It does rain a lot in the wintertime in January, February, but a lot of the activities that we went over today would be summertime activities or fall or spring, and in the wintertime really into skiing. A lot of big mountain like heli skiing and skiing. So yeah, a lot of snow.
There's another question. Are there any lakes in particularly known for fishing?
There's lots. So depending on the type of fish, if you wanted to fish salmon lakes or freshwater trout lakes, or maybe you can take that offline and can figure out which.
What about rainbow trout, specifically rainbow trout? Do you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, there's the Babine Lake, which is the biggest one near Smithers. There's Francois Lake, which is really, really big, and there's Utsik and Lake, which has this cool tram that you can take. So you actually put your boat on this railroad track to get it from one boat to the other, and there's very little people that ever go into there, but it's really amazing and really big rainbow when you do get in there. So
that's awesome. Yvette mentioned she actually drove, I remember this, my friend Yvette who's on here, she drove Highway 16 all by herself because her husband was working up in Haida Gwaii, so she drove that. I think she was even pulling a trailer or boat or something, so that's pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, she was. I don't see any other questions, and we've kept you just over 30 minutes. So I want to say thank you, first of all, to Kyle, because you're awesome, and for coming on here and doing this with us, because we really appreciate your support. Thank you to all the participants for joining us again for our happy hour, and we hope to see you back here in 2 weeks. Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you. And hopefully we'll have a beer in person soon. Enjoy the clam digging and the next show.
We will for sure. And hopefully I will see you soon in real life. We will have a nice cold one. Okay. Thanks, Kyle. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.